Hello and welcome to Los Revolucionarios, a program devoted to the work of Latin American artists who are changing the face of opera on and off stage. My name is Sandra Bengochez, and I am the executive director of Opera Cultura, and I'm so excited to welcome today's guest, Mezzo soprano Stephanie Sanchez. Stephanie Sanchez has been praised by Opera News for her polished Italianate mezzo and by Review STL for her exquisite singing. Born and raised in Las Cruces, New Mexico, Sanchez received her artist diploma from the Shepherd School of Music at Rice University and her master's degree in vocal performance from New Mexico State University. Stephanie was a resident principal artist with Opera San Jose for 2 seasons, where she performed the roles of Prince Orlovsky in Die Fledermaus, Hansel in Hansel and Gretel, and Azucena in Il Trovatore. She returned in 2022 to perform the role of Mercedes while covering the title role in Carmen. Sanchez made several notable house debuts in the 22-23 season, including performances of The Magic Flute at Ravinia, Under the Baton of Marine Alsop, The Knock with Cincinnati Opera, and in the world premiere of Proximity 4 Portraits at the Lyric Opera of Chicago. She has also been seen in roles with the Glimmerglass Festival, Opera Theater of St. Louis, West Edge Opera, Brava Opera Theater, St. Petersburg Opera, Teatro Nuovo, Sarasota Opera, and Opera Maine. Sanchez opened the 23-24 season in her debut with Kentucky Opera, performing the role of the witch in Hansel and Gretel. She also makes debuts with the Phoenix Symphony, where she will sing as a soloist in Handel's Messias, Spanish Messiah, Nettie Fowler in Carousel with Intermountain Opera Bozeman, with Opera Omaha in the title role of Frida in Gabriela Lena Frank's El Último Sueño de Frida y Diego, and the title role of Carmen at the Newport Music Festival. She also returns to Arizona Opera to reprise the role of Carlota de Obregón in abbreviated performances of Zorro for the company's New Works Festival. Opera Cultura is thrilled to welcome Stephanie in the title role of La Llorona on June 22nd and 23rd, 2024 at the Mexican Heritage Plaza in San Jose. Please go to www.operacultura.org for more information and to get your tickets. And how was the role of the witch for you?
Oh my God, it was so much fun. I don't get to do a lot of character work, and so that was my first time with the role. I've sung Hansel. I sang Hansel at Opera San Jose. I've done the mother, and now I've added the witch to my.
You could do the whole show.
I could. My friend was joking, saying that we should do a one-woman Hansel and Gretel. It's just me. Like, well, that would be funny.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I would think that the witch would be like the most like open and fun to do. Man, that's a role that I'm like, oh man, I wish I could sing that.
Yeah, that I will tell you, I am biased, and that's definitely the one that I had the most fun with. This production was also very interesting because we used puppets. So I was actually half puppet. And so I had to learn how to puppeteer in addition to singing. So it was a challenge, but it was very cool. And with the production, it was super effective and like nothing I'd ever done before. So it was I had such a wonderful time. So how I was first introduced to opera, I grew up in a very musical household. My dad had a band that played everything from Los Tigres del Norte to George Strait to Whitney Houston. This was back in the late 80s and early 90s. And so I think it was called like a top 40 band back then, which is such a dated term that I know many people won't even know, but
I know. I know.
I know, you know, we know. But in addition to that, he was also the choir director and music arranger for the Spanish Mass at my family's church. So I grew up listening to his band practice, singing in the church choir. And then we, meaning my brothers and my sisters, we were all in piano lessons from a very young age. So, as far as my first introduction to opera, that came via my mother. My mom went to college a little bit later in life, and so she used to have to take me with her to her college courses. And one of those happened to be a music appreciation course. So it was there that I was first exposed to symphonies and operas and classical music as a whole, really. So she would be studying for her listening exams, and she would tell me the names of the pieces, and sometimes I'd kind of remember them. And so when she would go back and review, I would help her, or I thought I was helping her by screaming out some 6-year-old version of what I thought the piece would be. And yeah, that's how I learned about opera.
Through a
Um,
music appreciation class taught at a
right.
community college, I'm guessing.
At New Mexico State University. So she
Oh,
was her degree is in teaching and education, and so she was going to school for that. But yeah. um,
wow. And were your parents opera goers? Did they, obviously your father played the top, he played the
yeah.
hits. But
No,
were they interested in opera at all?
not really, just because it wasn't really around. We had a symphony in Las Cruces, New Mexico, but there really wasn't a big opera presence. So I don't think there was the opportunity to go to one. I think that maybe if there was, they probably would have taken us because they really wanted for us to experience everything, you know. But yeah, it was definitely via the music appreciation class that I learned about opera as a
Wow, that's
6-year-old.
incredible. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Oh man.
Since six
Um,
years old.
Yeah, I guess I must have been 6 or 7. Like I said, she went to school after my brother and sister were kind of grown, and then I'm the baby of the family. So yeah, so she would just take me with her, and I would just sit there.
And you took it all in and became this incredible mezzo soprano. Now, I have another question for you. Did you ever sing with your dad's band?
I didn't, because I was always so young whenever he was still doing his band stuff. It was mainly the church choir was where I would sing, but I was there from a very, very early age. My brother played the piano in the church choir. So that was basically where my singing took off. And Las Cruces, for people that don't know, it's about 40 minutes away from the Mexican border. So you have Las Cruces, you have El Paso, Texas, and then you have Juarez. And so it's this kind of like tri-city area, and that's basically my home. Um, so I feel really fortunate because my parents achieved a lot from very humble beginnings. And I'm always eternally grateful for everything that they have given me and every opportunity that they've given me. They're from the boomer generation. And so they grew up in an era during a time where assimilation was basically the only choice if you wanted to be successful career wise. But then at home, our culture was still very, very present. So there ended up being this kind of duality in my upbringing. And it was sometimes a struggle, especially during my teenage years, because I was really frustrated with not knowing where I fit in. I wasn't from Mexico. I also wasn't Anglo. So it was a little bit of, who am I? Where do I belong? A lot of that, a lot of self introspection. So I know that's the reality for many Chicanos and many Latina people, but it definitely took me a while to figure out where I fit in. Um, and now I guess I realized that I didn't really have to choose one or the other. I was uniquely both. Um, so when I made that choice to pursue classical music, I was entering into a predominantly white field, which I realize now actually kind of paralleled my parents' experience. Oftentimes when I would walk into a rehearsal room, I would be the only Latina and sometimes the only person of color, period. And so I acknowledge that I am what people love to call ethnically ambiguous. And sometimes that whole "what are you" question would definitely come up. And that's since changed, and the industry has learned to be a little bit more polite in how they ask that question. But that was definitely a reality of mine. And I began to understand, kind of what my parents went through as well. I began to understand the concept of code switching, behaving and speaking in one way when you're in the presence of certain company, and then how that can all change when you're at home with family and friends. But all that to say, I think that my cultural experience taught me how to be brave and how to exist in both worlds, even in classical music, right? And I try my very best to bring that braveness and that tenacity into my art and into my singing at all times. Because I think as Latinos or Latine, we have so much to say and want to be able to share that with people.
That's beautiful, Steffi. That's beautiful,
Thank you.
Stephanie. That's gorgeous. I love that. I love everything you're saying there. I
Uh,
loved your your post on Facebook. Was it downloaded like the YouTube album?
I mean, I feel like everybody remembers that. You just all of a sudden we looked on our iPhone and we're like, where did this U2 album come from? I have no idea, no recollection of it. So it's a little bit of the same with La Llorona. I mean, yes, I'm very, very, very well acquainted with the story of being born and raised in New Mexico. Most children, I mean, even regardless of ethnicity, are familiar with it, especially because the Rio Grande, the river, is literally in our backyard. It runs through the city, and it's right there. Um, and so, as far as where I first heard it, I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, it was kind of just this innate knowledge that we've always known. My brother had said that my dad used to tell it to us to get us to stay away from the river. But I also remember it from elementary school so much as that it was a part of our curriculum. In fourth grade, like for example, in fourth grade, my teacher had us do a creative writing exercise where we had to rewrite the ending of the story. And so basically saying, well, what else could have happened to the children? So maybe a less scary ending for the story. But yeah, it's very saturated in our region. And I think as New Mexicans, we love to take ownership of it, regardless if it's ours or not. So
And it's been such a pleasure to meet you, Stephanie.
and
I'm
like,
your voice is so warm and velvety and chocolate, and you're so beautiful. And this has been un gran placer speaking with you, Stephanie. I'm so excited to meet you personally and to see you do your thing as La Llorona.
gracias, Sandra. Thank you so much for having me. This was really great, and I can't wait to see you guys in June.
Come see Stephanie Sanchez as La Llorona on June 22nd and June 23rd at the Mexican Heritage Plaza in San Jose. Tickets go on sale January 1st. For more information, go to www.operacultura.org.